Hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. A late sell-off on Dalal Street. The Nifty loses more than 200 points from the high point of the day. Ends the day flat. Mid-caps and bank stocks also give up gains. IT stocks, however, buck the trend. Crude oil prices rally after the United States steps up the pressure on Russia, imposes sanctions on two of Russia's largest oil companies, hitting supplies to China and India. This comes a day after President Trump shelved the proposed summit with President Putin. Russia ramps up attacks on Ukraine and conducts nuclear drills. U.S. sanctions on Russia's Rosneft comes as a setback for its subsidiary Nayara, which runs the second-largest refinery in India. Trump says India's Russian oil imports will be down to nothing by the end of the year. The Reliance Industries spokesperson tells Reuters the conglomerate is recalibrating its Russian oil imports to align with the government's guidelines. Hindustan Unilever meets estimates in the second quarter. One-time tax gain boosts profits. In her first press conference as CEO, Priya Nair says the company will be obsessed with volume-led growth as the long-term strategy. Tata Motors' own Jaguar Land Rover faces a loss of £540 million due to the cyber attack. As per an independent agency in the UK, expects JLR to resume production fully by January of next year. JLR declines to respond to CNBC TV 18's queries. The Defence Acquisition Council clears proposals worth 79,000 crore rupees for the Army, Navy and Air Force. Forces will acquire new missile systems, high-mobility vehicles, lightweight torpedoes, among others. A fresh twist in the boardroom battle at Tata Trust. Sources say Mehli Mistry provided conditional approval to Venu Srinivasan's reappointment to the board. Mistry will withdraw support if all future reappointments are not unanimous, taking some trustees by surprise. Mistry's term as a trustee expires in 5 days. The government amends the IT rules to limit the powers to take down online content to fewer officials. Only senior bureaucrats or police officers can now order the removal of content. The move follows a legal battle with Elon Musk's social media platform X on the contentious policy. Tesla's profits decline for the fourth straight quarter despite record sales as tariffs and research costs take a toll. IBM boosts growth outlook after reporting orders worth nearly $10 billion for its AI business. After weeks of speculation, the opposition bloc formally declares RJD leader Tejashwi Yadav as the CM face for the upcoming Bihar Assembly elections. Vikassheel Insan Party chief Mukesh Sahni named as the deputy CM face. It's a sparkling Diwali for retailers. The Confederation of All India Traders claims record-breaking sales at over 6 lakh crore rupees. Consumer durables and auto sectors see record sales growth. Quick commerce apps emerge as the biggest growth drivers. Well, let's start with the day's market action. The Sensex and the Nifty started very strong, but eventually erased all the gains after we saw a late sell-off. The Nifty fell more than 200 points from the intraday high, ending the day flat. So that's the Nifty. That doesn't tell you the story of how strong we started and how far we fell. Similar picture for the Sensex and the Nifty Bank, the Nifty Mid-Cap Index closing in the red. Gold prices, meanwhile, up today after 2 sessions of sharp declines. The fresh sanctions on Russia and the renewed trade tensions between US and China pushing gold prices higher despite the recent correction. Gold prices are up 50% so far this year. Meanwhile, crude oil prices also rallying, this after the US targeted Russia's biggest oil producers, and that is our top story tonight. The Trump administration is hardening its stance on Russia. Now, the US government has imposed fresh sanctions that target Russia's 2 biggest oil companies, this in a bid to force a ceasefire in Ukraine. Now, the move will impact oil supply to China and India. Rosneft and Lukoil are the 2 companies that face the sanctions. Now, Rosneft owns more than 49% stake in India-based Nayara Energy. That is a subsidiary of Rosneft. Meanwhile, the European Union has also approved the 19th package of sanctions on Russia, and this will also include a ban on the imports of Russian liquefied natural gas. And this move comes after President Trump shelved the proposed summit with President Putin. Now, things have escalated on the battlefield in Ukraine, with Russia launching a barrage of drone attacks and conducting nuclear drills as well. But back to Nayara. Nayara Energy runs the second-largest oil refinery in India with a capacity of 20 million tons per annum. Now, it has relied entirely on Russian supply so far, and that supply has been on the decline. As of September, Nayara was receiving about 3 lakh barrels per day, which is down 22% compared to the same period last year. That's the picture as far as Nayara is concerned. Reliance Industries is signalling a potential reduction to its Russian oil imports. A company spokesperson told Reuters, and I quote, recalibration of Russian oil imports is ongoing and Reliance will be fully aligned to the government's guidelines. That is a statement from Reliance to Reuters on the extent of recalibration. Let's now talk about that call that Prime Minister Modi had with President Trump on Diwali. President Trump once again reiterating, not in that call, but post that call, that India will not be buying much oil from Russia. In fact, he went a step further and said India's oil imports from Russia will be almost nothing by the end of the year. Here's President Trump.
India, as you know, has told me they are stop. You know, it's a process. You can't just stop it. But by the end of the year, they'll be down to almost nothing. That's a big thing. That was almost 40% of the oil. India, they've been great. Spoke to Prime Minister Modi yesterday. They've been absolutely great.
Well, that's President Trump there. Now, the latest sanctions will have an impact on Russian oil supplies to both India and China. Parikshit is here with more on the sanctions, what it means for the India-US trade negotiations and what happens to supply with these sanctions coming in. Parikshit.
Well, US decision to impose sanctions on two of Russia's largest oil refiners, Rosneft and Lukoil, will have a big impact on first China, which is the biggest buyer of Russian oil, followed by India, which is the second biggest buyer. There are other buyers also around the world. Trump, having lost patience with Putin, has imposed these sanctions, which will kick in on November 21st. This, according to experts, is aimed at avoiding chaos in the oil markets. Rosneft and Lukoil together account for 50% of Russia's 4 million barrels a day of crude exports. China imported about 2 million barrels per day of Russian oil in September, while India took around 1.6 million barrels per day in September. India's imports of Russian oil actually increased in October up to 1.75 million barrels per day. According to analysts, out of 1.75 million barrels per day of imports from Russia to India, 1.2 million barrels per day are actually coming from Rosneft and Lukoil alone. While there will definitely be a disruption for India, the problem would be more for private companies which buy directly from Russian oil giants. India's oil marketing companies do not buy directly, but they do so from third-party traders. Therefore, the operational impact on them is going to be limited. Kepler analysts have explained that they expect supply chains to stabilize, as has happened in the past, but there could be short-term friction for private companies which have direct engagement with Russian oil majors. However, for the moment, the Indian government is watching the situation closely, we're told, and has also been working on import diversification for the past many months, including increasing energy imports from the United States, which have gone up 60% year on year.
Right. So how should India balance its interests with the United States and Russia? Parikshit, many thanks for joining us. Let's listen in to some experts on the impact of the latest US sanctions and the way forward.
I think this is one of the hardest sanctions, or I would say hit on Russian exports to India, or I would say India's import of Russian oil till now. And if you look at like this year, India has been buying around 1.7 million barrels per day of total Russian barrels. Out of this, around 1.2 million barrels per day of crude is coming from Lukoil and Rosneft, the two sanctioned entities. So no doubt we see this is one of the major roadblock for the Indian refineries this year.
In any case, it's a good policy to diversify our source of oil imports. So, to depend on Russia for 30 or 34%, or depend on any single source for such a major supply is something which needs a review.
These sanctions will actually put out all the Russian barrels out of the market. I don't think that will happen because China still continues to buy, and it will be difficult to implement a sanction in the past also where 100% barrels goes out of the market.
Well, we will have to see how Indian OMCs respond to the sanctions that have now been imposed by the Trump administration. Hindustan Unilever's second quarter performance meeting expectations, a one-time tax of boost has given the company's bottom line a bump up. Speaking at her first press conference, as CEO Priya Nayara said the company will be obsessed with volume-led growth as its long-term strategy. Mangalam joins us now with more on HUL's performance and Priya Nayara's roadmap for the company. Mangalam.
With HUL, second quarter numbers lacked fireworks, but they were pretty much in line with Street's expectations because of the company had prepped them up post the GST-related, disruption that would happen, GST transition-related disruption, so to say. Revenue absolutely flat year-on-year on a standalone basis. Consolidated business grew, obviously, on account of the acquisitions that the company had made. But, as per Street expectations, the revenues were in line. EBITDA absolutely in line as well. There was a jump of nearly 4% on the net profit, but that was largely on account of an exceptional one-off tax reversal that happened between India and UK. But importantly, the commentary is something that the Street would be eyeing from here on. And in her first press conference as the MD and CEO of HUL, Priya Nayara did spell it out that she is obsessed with volume growth. In fact, going forward, they are expecting recovery to begin from November itself as trade-related disruptions end by the end of October. And more importantly, the management also guided for margins to be between 23 to 24%, as against earlier 22 to 23%. And that's largely on account of the demerger of their margin dilutive ice cream business. Also, given the current state of commodities, they believe that if they stay stable at current levels, there would be an element of low single-digit pricing growth as well. All in all, the second half would be better than the first half, was the sense that the company gave to investors and analysts as the numbers were reported. Lack of fireworks in the second quarter, all the onus shifts to the second half of this year, and more importantly, over the longer term as Priya Nayara's leadership plays out.
We will be obsessed with volume-led revenue growth. This will be our focus, our obsession. There are 4 pillars we will focus on as a strategy in the future. The first is that we will segment radically our consumer segments in India. There are distinct consumer cohorts emerging in India. We have a unique opportunity to serve all these emerging segments in India. We will future fit our marketing and sales frontline machinery. Our marketing will become much more social first demand generation, and we will invest in ensuring that we are investing behind quick commerce and e-commerce. We will radically transform our core brands, making them more modern, youthful, contemporary.
Well, that's HUL's Priya Nayara in her first earnings conference. Tata Motors' own Jaguar Land Rover is likely to suffer a loss of £540 million due to the cyber attack that halted production for the company in September. This is information according to Cyber Monitoring Centre, which is an independent agency that tracks the impact of cyber hits on UK-based firms. The agency has estimated that the cyber attack will also cost the UK economy an estimated £1.9 billion. The Cyber Monitoring Centre also expects JLR to resume production fully only by January of next year. JLR declined to respond to CNBC TV 18's queries on the matter. The Defence Acquisition Council has approved the capital acquisition proposals worth about 79,000 crore rupees for the armed forces. The government will acquire the NAG missile systems, high mobility vehicles for the army, and the advanced light torpedoes for the Navy. Meanwhile, the Air Force will receive collaborative long-range target destruction system. So the DSC clearing proposals worth 79,000 crore rupees. Shares of Infosys gaining nearly 4% after the tech giant said its promoters will not participate in the 18,000 crore rupee buyback. This as the decision increases acceptance ratio for shareholders. Promoters not tendering shares generally signals confidence in the company's long-term growth. The buyback exercise will cover around 2.4% of equity at 1,800 rupees a share. AI startup Uniphore has secured $260 million in funding from tech giants NVIDIA and AMD. This takes the startup's total funding to $870 million. The Series F funding round maintains the company's $2.5 billion valuation. Uniphore has said that the capital will be invested in its flagship AI and data platform business, AI Cloud. So AMD and NVIDIA both coming on board to Uniphore. A fresh twist in the boardroom battle at the Tata Trust. Sources say Meli Mistry provided conditional approval to Venu Srinivasan's reappointment to the board. Now, Mistry will withdraw support if all future reappointments are not unanimous, taking some trustees by surprise. Mistry's term as a trustee expires in 5 days. Parikshit is back with us with more on this story. So, Parikshit, it's very clear the battle is by no means over.
It isn't, and we're also seeing tension between the trustees. Just ahead of Venu Srinivasan's reappointment process, there was a letter which went from Mehli Mistry to all the trustees saying that he would support Venu Srinivasan only if all trustees agree that the reappointment of trustees in future will happen for life. It will happen unanimously for everyone. In case that changed, then Mistry would withdraw his support. Now, this took some of the trustees by surprise because they feel that there is no such clause in the rules of Tata Trusts, and no one can withdraw their support retrospectively. So it could be seen as a move by Mehli Mistry to secure his reappointment ahead of the 28th October deadline when his term as trustee comes to an end. We believe Tata Trusts are soon going to circulate a letter for his reappointment, and he also will have to be reappointed unanimously, and it will happen for life. So this is an important development that we are going to see play out over the next 3 to 4 days.
All right, Parikshit, many thanks for joining us. The government has amended the IT rules to allow only senior bureaucrats or police officers to issue takedown orders for online content. Now, this move follows a legal battle with Elon Musk's social media platform X on the contentious policy. Ashmit joins us now with more details. Ashmit, I remember very distinctly that it was while this matter was being argued in the Karnataka High Court that the petitioner had said that every Tom, Dick and Harry could issue a takedown order. So the government basically now putting safeguards in place. Take us through the amendments and the impact.
Well, the government amending the IT rules, introducing safeguards with respect to takedown powers that it has under Section 79 of the IT Act. So what are these changes? Well, there are 3 key changes that have been made. Number one, the government under these new rules says only senior government officers of the rank of Joint Secretary or higher will be authorized to issue takedown orders. In the case of police, only an officer of the rank of DIG or higher will be authorized to issue these takedown orders. The concern was within the government that they were seeing increasing cases of even ASI level officers in the police issuing takedown orders to the social media companies. That's one. The second is any such directions that are passed by high-ranking government officers have to be well-reasoned, have to have a very clear legal backing, and need to very clearly say what is the illegal content that they're looking to flag. Number 3, there needs to now be a monthly review mechanism of all these takedown orders that are passed by a specific department or by an arm of the government. Now, the government very clearly says that this has nothing to do with any ongoing cases before any high courts or Supreme Court, but it is worth mentioning that earlier this year, Elon Musk-backed X had challenged these very takedown powers in the Karnataka High Court, had questioned the lack of safeguards. In fact, their exact words were, their concern was that various government officers had started issuing takedown orders, their exact words being, any Tom, Dick and Harry officer is issuing these takedown orders. Now, the High Court, of course, had held in favor of the government, had rejected X's application, but X is keeping its powder dry, looking to challenge that before a higher court. But clearly, the government saying that we're doing our bit by introducing greater safeguards under Section 79 to the takedown powers that it currently has.
Ashmit, many thanks. A quick check of some of the other headlines that we're tracking this evening. Social media giant Reddit has sued AI company Perplexity for illegally scraping user posts to train its AI model. In a court filing in New York, Reddit has also named 3 other defendants, adding that these companies helped the AI giant collect data. Reddit alleges that these 3 entities extracted copyright content by masking their identities and disguising their web scrapers as regular people. Perplexity denies these allegations and has accused Reddit of extortion. Global earnings, shares of Tesla down 5% despite reporting record revenue in the September quarter. Revenue hit $28 billion as buyers rushed to take advantage of the tax credit, which ended last month. However, net profit down 37% due to increased costs on account of tariffs. In the earnings call, CEO Elon Musk spoke on robo-taxis and humanoid robots, but failed to provide a clear guidance on EV sales. And staying with earnings, IBM's Q3 earnings in line with Wall Street expectations. The company has raised its revenue guidance, citing strong AI tailwinds. Revenue surging 9%, the company reporting a net income of $1.74 billion after reporting a loss of $330 million a year earlier. Free cash flow for the year is expected to hit $14 billion, up from $13.5 billion. That was the estimate in the previous quarter. China has named Zhang Shengmin as the country's second highest ranked military general at the plenum of the country's Communist Party. This makes him second only to President Xi Jinping in China's military chain of command. Zhang previously served as the top anti-corruption watchdog within the Chinese army. And that's not all. 11 members of the elite Central Committee were replaced as well. State-run news agency Xinhua has called it the highest personnel turnover since 2017. Up next on India Business Hour, Delhi gasps as air quality hovers in the very poor category for the fourth consecutive day. The Delhi government faces criticism for ordering air purifiers for its secretariat. And you can catch all of CNBC TV 18's news and updates on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X and Jio Hotstar. Do subscribe to CNBC TV 18 Access for exclusive stories and special shows like our Editor's Playbook. Well, you're watching India Business Hour, the big national headline of the day. After weeks of speculation, the opposition bloc has formally declared RJD leader Tejashwi Yadav as the CM face for the upcoming Bihar Assembly elections. Vikashsheel Insan Party chief Mukesh Sahni has been named as the contender for Deputy Chief Minister. A toxic blanket of haze continues to envelop North India and large parts of Delhi. Air pollution has spiked since Diwali. The Delhi government under Chief Minister Rekha Gupta is facing questions not just over pollution, but also over an order of 15 air purifiers for the Secretariat. Archana Solanki joins us now with more. Archana.
Delhi Chief Minister Rekha Gupta, who has claimed that the level of air pollution after Diwali has decreased under the current government compared to the previous governments. Now, the irony is that her own government has apparently ordered air purifiers for the Delhi Secretariat. Now, TMC MP Mahua Moitra and former Delhi Health Minister Saurabh Bharadwaj have claimed that the Delhi government has ordered 15 air purifiers at the Delhi Secretariat at taxpayers' money. The total cost of this project is 5.4 lakh rupees, with each unit priced at 36,345 rupees. The air quality in Delhi remained in the very poor category for the fourth consecutive day this morning after the Supreme Court allowed the bursting of green firecrackers in the national capital at the Delhi government's request for Diwali. While the average AQI in Delhi was recorded at over 340 at 5:30 a.m. this morning, the air quality in Anand Vihar area was recorded at 511 in the severe zone. Now, this AQI has deteriorated post-Diwali with slow wind speed making matters worse. Delhi government, however, has not responded to the opposition's allegations. Now, the AQI of Delhi is 1.3 times above than the national average. And Delhi is now seeing stage 2 of GRAP guidelines. Now, what is stage 2 of GRAP guidelines? Now, GRAP is basically Graded Response Action Plan, which is designed to combat air pollution in Delhi NCR. It was introduced as an emergency response, and its implementation is triggered when the AQI reaches poor levels. As I said, stage 2 is when the air quality is in very poor category, when the AQI is between 301 and 400. Now, under this, people are urged to use public transport and minimize personal vehicles, use technology, take less congested routes. People have to regularly replace air filters at recommended intervals in their automobiles. So these are some of the guidelines, and people have also been advised to avoid open burning of solid waste and biomass. Now, health experts have raised concerns about the rising AQI and its impact on vulnerable groups, particularly children and the elderly and those with respiratory problems. Now, why is this particular move controversial of ordering air purifiers? Well, the timing of this order has raised many eyebrows, given that the Chief Minister herself promoted a traditional Diwali celebration backing approval for green crackers. Now, the same government is equipping its offices with air purifiers. Back to you.
Many thanks, Archana. Now, Boeing has responded to India's aviation regulator on the deployment of the Ram air turbine without a command on an Air India flight at the Birmingham airport. Boeing has explained what caused it and why several Dreamliners worldwide are reporting similar instances. Madhiya joins us now with the details. Madhiya, what is Boeing saying? Why are we seeing the RAT deployment?
Well, this sudden RAT deployment on the Air India flight, the issue has been buzzing in aviation circles. Boeing has now told DGCA that the issue is linked to a mechanical toggle inside the RAT stowage system, which can slip out of place after maintenance. Since the Dreamliner entered service 14 years ago, there have been 31 instances of uncommanded RAT deployment, that is, the RAT getting activated without a pilot command or an emergency trigger. Now, Boeing says in 29 29 out of the 31 cases in the last 14 years, the aircraft were fitted with older rat stow actuators that did not have a modified shuttle valve, a small but crucial component that controls pressure inside the up-lock toggle mechanism. Now, Boeing said that when the rat is manually stowed after maintenance, the toggle mechanism may not lock fully into place. Then during operations such as takeoff, landing or rough runway conditions, vibrations can cause the toggle to slip into the deploy position, releasing the rat unexpectedly. Now, in the case of Air India's aircraft VTANO flying from Amritsar to Birmingham when the rat deployed suddenly, Boeing has confirmed that the rat maintenance was done in July 2025, after which the rat was manually stored, exactly the condition under which the issue can occur. Now, to fix this, Boeing had earlier introduced a design change in the shuttle valve, but 19 of Air India's Dreamliners, including VTANO, which was flying from Amritsar to Birmingham, do not yet have this modification. Now, following Boeing's explanation, the DGCA has directed Air India to meticulously repeat the rat stowage procedure on all aircraft that had seen rat activity in the past 6 months. So far, 14 out of the 16 Dreamliners have completed this recheck, with 2 more undergoing maintenance. Boeing has clarified there is no safety directive or service bulletin yet on this design improvement, meaning it is not mandatory retrofit, but the regulator is taking no chances, ensuring that each aircraft's rat mechanism is checked and properly seated to prevent any further recurrence.
Many thanks, Madiha. An important statement there coming in from Boeing. Well, it's been a sparkling Diwali for Indian retailers. From Diwali lights to new car keys, consumer spending has come back strong this year thanks to the GST cuts and higher discretionary spending. The Confederation of All India Traders claims that Diwali sales have crossed the 6 lakh crore rupee mark, making it the most successful festive season ever.
Has been one of the most good-looking, or I would say the best festive season in the last 1 decade, primarily because of the GST cut and also because the festive mood was around, the consumer sentiment was on all-time high. We have seen a high growth of 20% over last year. Now, this is a growth on a good base. Normally, we don't see more than 8 to 10% growth. So we have seen double the growth which we have seen.
Well, the best festive season in years. That's the view coming in from across sectors. Well, that's a good note to end this edition of India Business Hour. As always, thanks very much for watching. Do stay tuned. The news will continue right here on CNBC TV 18. We always like to hear from you. For now, goodbye, and we'll see you again.